Hey everyone, and welcome. We're about to dive into a secret language that's being spoken inside your body right this very second. It's this constant, hidden conversation between all your organs. And, scientists are just now starting to really eavesdrop on it. And what they're hearing could change everything we know about how we heal and why we get old. So let's just start with this one massive question. What if you could actually slow down aging, heal from injuries faster, and just feel better? Not by targeting one specific organ, but just by, improving the communication that's already happening inside you. Because that's exactly the wild new idea we're going to explore. Your body isn't just a collection of individual parts doing their own thing. It's a deeply connected network. Your fat, your bones, your muscles, they're all constantly chatting, sending out signals that basically run the whole show. But the story of how we figured this out, it didn't start in some sterile, high-tech lab. Nope. The first major clue came from the great outdoors, from watching one of nature's most mind-blowing spectacles of regeneration. And yeah, you're seeing that right. The clue came from deer antlers. I know, it sounds a little out there, but seriously, stick with me because this is where the whole story just gets fascinating. So there's this biologist, Chun-Yi Lee, and he's studying deer. And he's obviously impressed by their ability to regrow these huge, bony antlers every single year. But he started noticing something else, something really strange that was happening to the rest of the deer's body at the same time. He ended up calling it the antler effect. See, while the deer were in this incredible, supercharged regeneration mode, growing their antlers, any other cuts or wounds they healed way, way faster. And not just faster, they healed cleaner with almost no scarring. It was like their whole body was in on the project. And that was the profound takeaway. It wasn't just about the antlers. The act of growing them was sending out this system-wide memo, a biological broadcast to every cell in the deer's body that said, hey, it's time to heal, full regeneration mode, people. One single process was changing the behavior of the entire animal. So you can imagine, this wasn't just some neat fact about deer. It completely cracked open a new way of looking at our own bodies, revealing this hidden communication network that's been running in the background all along. And these conversations, they're happening in you right now. Get this. Your fat tissue isn't just sitting there. It's actively talking to your brain, influencing how you age. Your bones aren't just a frame. They're sending signals to your pancreas to help control your metabolism. And every time you exercise, your muscles are releasing these little molecules that have huge effects on your brain and your liver. It's a constant chatter. So how in the world are these messages getting around? Well, scientists have zeroed in on a key player that was kind of hiding in plain sight. They're called extracellular vesicles, or EVs for short. Just picture these tiny microscopic bubbles that pinch off from one cell, travel through your bloodstream, and then deliver a special package to another cell far, far away. Honestly, the absolute best way to think about them is as biological text messages. They are sent from a specific sender to a specific recipient. They carry a very specific message, and they're sent with a clear purpose. And the stuff inside these texts, it's incredible. We're not talking about simple one-word commands. These little bubbles can be stuffed with complex cargo, like proteins, pieces of RNA, or even entire mitochondria, the power plants of our cells. That's not like sending a text message. That's like mailing an entire power generator with an instruction manual. Okay, so if our bodies are this buzzing, chattering communication network, that leads to a really important question. What happens when the signal starts to get weak or the calls start dropping? Well, that question is leading us to a completely new way of thinking about aging itself. And it turns out, there seems to be a master controller for a lot of this chatter, a tiny little spot deep in your brain called the hypothalamus. You can think of it like the body's air traffic controller, trying to coordinate all these thousands of messages that are flying around every single second. And this is where it gets really wild. In one amazing study, scientists were able to go in and just flip a few switches, activate specific neurons in the hypothalamus of some old mice. That one little tweak caused a huge cascade of effects, boosting levels of a molecule called NAD+, which is basically the fuel for our cells' repair kits. And the result? The old mice simply lived longer, a lot longer. So this is the big shift in thinking. The old idea of aging was that it's just rust, simple wear and tear on our different parts. But the new idea is completely different. It suggests aging is more like a network failure, a slow, steady breakdown in the conversation between our organs, maybe orchestrated by that central controller in the brain. And this isn't just about getting wrinkles or gray hair. When this incredibly complex communication system starts to fail, when the text messages get corrupted or sent to the wrong address, it can lead to some of the worst diseases we know. In fact, more and more, we're starting to see that this faulty signaling isn't just a symptom of disease, it's a primary cause. So, for example, you have these things called zombie cells. They use those little EV bubbles to basically spam the cells around them with inflammatory signals, making the whole neighborhood get old and sick. Cancer is even smarter. It actually hijacks our nerve pathways to send out messages that tell our immune system to stand down. And there's more and more evidence that diseases like Alzheimer's might be using these same pathways to spread their toxic proteins. And this really reframes everything. It means something like heart failure isn't just a pump problem. Dementia isn't just a brain problem. They are whole body communication disorders, where a miscommunication in one area leads to a total system meltdown. But here's the incredibly hopeful part. If a broken conversation is the problem, well, then fixing that conversation could be the solution. This opens the door to a whole new kind of medicine, one that doesn't just treat one organ, but helps the whole system get back in sync. And to see what this might look like, let's just circle all the way back to our deer. Chinyi Li's team actually took blood from those deer while they were in that super regenerative antler growing phase, and they gave it to wounded rats. And what happened? The rats healed way faster, with much less scarring. The healing signal was literally in the blood, and it was transferable. Now, that single experiment proved the principle is real. The signal works, even across different species. So the massive challenge now, really the holy grail for this whole field, is to figure out how to bottle up that same regenerative power and use it for us. You know, for all of human history, these signals have just been the quiet background music of our own bodies, and we never even knew we should be listening. But now we are. And it tells us that the future of medicine might not be about fixing individual parts. It might be about learning how to become the conductor of the orchestra and restoring the beautiful, complex conversation that keeps the whole body alive and in harmony.